Good morning, my internet friends. Today we're gonna change the cable on a pair of DT990s. For some reason, like the most popular video on my channel for the past few weeks has been changing the cable on a DT990. And the video I've got on there is not good. It's badly lit, the operation isn't really centered, you can't really see what's going on. And when I shot it, I think I was probably just doing it more as reference for myself than thinking that anyone would actually want to use it. So I'm going to do a better video, which will hopefully be more informative and help you change your cable should it break. Or if you want to change it from straight to curly or from curly to straight. We mod a lot of these headphones, so we do actually have loads of spare cables knocking around, and we've listed them. I think we've listed them on our shop for like a tenner, which is half the price that they actually cost. So I'll try and put some links down there, so if you need a cable, I think we've got some cheap ones that we're trying to get rid of at the moment. Anyway, so what generally happens is over time this cable kind of work hardens and tends to get twisted off about here. So if you're not careful and twist your cable a lot, eventually it breaks. So replacing the cable is quite a common operation. We get a lot in to get the cable replaced, and they normally just go for a detachable cable mod while we're at it. But we're going to do a standard cable, replace that. It's pretty easy. You will need a T6 screwdriver if you've got one of the new ones from the past 4 or 5 years. Phillips screwdriver if it's one of the older ones, and we'll go through the old and the new drivers because there's different things that you have to worry about. It's worth having a multimeter if ever you're doing anything. If you're thinking of fixing anything electrical, get yourself a multimeter. They only cost £6 or £7 for a cheap one, and it will save you a lot of time and effort in the long run. So I'm just going to remove the left ear cup, which is the one with the cable attached to it. I don't think we really need to remove the other one. Just T6 screws on these ones. Boom. Right, pop that out. And obviously put all your bits to one side so you don't lose them. Yeah, so we've got enough access here so we don't need to dismantle the rest of the headphones to do this. So we're going to remove the pad. Just going to put my finger in there and lift. That's removed. And then this retaining ring here holds all the driver in, and that's just clipped in. I'm just going to use something blunt. I'm going to use the end of a scalpel here, but a butter knife or anything like that. Don't want anything too sharp. Pop it in and twist, and that should pop up. That's how we do it here. I'm sure there's another way of doing it, but that way seems to work well without damaging anything, because if we remove that, you see underneath here, this is all paper, and you can poke something through it. So if you do it with a screwdriver or something, you might accidentally poke it through this. It's not going to really make a huge amount of difference, but you know, it's worth doing well. Right, okay, so now I'm going to remove the driver. And to do that, I will bang it on my hand. Oh, didn't need to, it just fell out. And inside here, you will see all the wires connected to the existing cable. Now then, this is one of the latest drivers, and these are really nice because you've got a 1 and a 0 there, which tell you which is the positive side and which is the negative side, because it is different on some drivers. Some have got the negative and positive the other way around. And then you've got a little circuit board here which all the wires connect to. And as best practice, what I would recommend is taking a picture with your phone camera or something of all the wires on there, where you can easily see what colour they are and where they connect to, so that when you come to put it back together you don't forget. But what I'll do is I'll explain how it all works, so you can also, if you're making your own cable, you can tell how to do it. Because Beyerdynamic do wire these in a strange way. So you'll notice on the negative side here, these two are connected to negative, and you've got a black wire, and then they also connect the red wire for the right hand side to the negative, and the white wire to the positive, which is very strange. It's not how I would do it. I would have red for positive and white for negative. So, and also the other red wire on the cable is a positive. So yeah, it's very, very strange that they choose to do it like that, which is why I'd recommend taking a picture of it, because if you get those the wrong way around, you'll end up with your other driver out of phase and it'll sound all weird. It's not difficult to fix, but it's worth noting. So, as I said, this is the latest driver. And so these two pads by the 0 are both connected together and they're negative. So you have one coming from the cable and one pass through to the right hand one, The middle ones aren't connected to positive or negative, they're just connected together for looping through the positive for the right hand cable. So the right hand cable goes into one, and the headband cable positive goes into the other. And then these two are the positive for this left driver. So then we need one. The reason why you got 2 pads is, as I said, sometimes the negative and the positive are the other way around, and they just swap it as and when they need to. Now then, if you've got a slightly older one, you won't have 0 and 1 written on here. You'll have a little pen mark which denotes the positive side, so whichever side the pen mark's on is the positive side. These ones are pretty good. There's not a lot you can do wrong. I definitely would avoid these 2 ones at the back because they're where the voice coil connects to, and if you break that voice coil you're in a world of hurt. So avoid touching that whole area with your soldering iron, but as long as you're careful, these ones pretty easy. I don't have to warn my staff about them, they're straightforward, whereas with the older ones I make them cut the cables if they're not sure, because these ones are a bit more suicidal. So these are some of the ones that predate the ones with the little circuit board. And again, you can see there's a pen mark here on the positive side, and they've got 3 connections, one for positive, one for negative, and one to loop the positive through for the other side. The problem with these is these metal stakes here are kind of glued onto this plastic portion, and if you get them too hot they come away and often break the voice coil wire. So be very careful not to get these too hot if you've got a driver that looks like this. And if you've got a really old one, they've only got 2 connections. And fair play to you, because you've got a very old pair and it's still running. But yeah, the old ones again you've got to watch out for. Just don't overheat the pins, otherwise they'll fall off. So if it's not going right, just let it cool down and try again. Don't keep the soldering iron on there. Okay, right, so that's just thought I'd go over that just so you kind of understood what was going on when you come to put it back together. So as you can see, you've got the headband cable, which they have the white as positive for some reason, and the actual main cable here where the red is positive right. On these newer ones, actually for the past quite a lot of years, you've had a little metal stake in there that holds the cable in. So can you see that in there? I'm just going to pull that out and that will release the cable. On the very modern cable you'll see some yellow fibres in there. Those are Kevlar, which is good. It's Kevlar reinforced, but it doesn't help you much if you twist it to death. If you yank on it, that won't break as easily as the older ones that don't have Kevlar, which is good. Right, so we've got the old cable off. I'm just going to replace it with a straight cable, and before you ask, there's no particular reason for this, I just need to demonstrate how to change a cable, and I had a straight cable to hand. Okay, so I'm going to remove the little clip from there. If you've got a very old pair, they won't have a clip on there, they're normally kind of just tied in a knot and they've got a rubber grommet, but you'll figure that out when you're in there. Alright, so first of all, once you've got the cable in, put the metal clip back in place which holds it in. That's probably the hardest part of this operation. Go on, you bugger, get in. Right. Don't want to get all Happy Gilmore on this, but a bit of swearing normally helps. There we go. Right, in. So now your cable's secured. And again, we've got 3 wires coming from there. So you've got the ground wire, which is common between the left and the right. Red is right, white is left. But don't take my word for it, because on some of the older cables it is different, and this is where having a multimeter is super handy. Get one with continuity that goes beep. This one I've set to beep. But yeah, most of the cheap ones have got that. It's definitely worth getting one that goes beep because it just saves you time. You don't have to look at the screen. So I'm going to touch one probe. Right. So so here's a jack. It goes left, right, ground. So I'm going to touch it to the big one, which is the ground. Touch it to this black one. It goes beep. So that's the ground. And then the red should be right. There we go. And the white should be left. There we go. So that's a good way to test. If you open it up, you've got hundreds of cables, different colours, you forget what they are. Just use a multimeter, continuity test it all. You can tell what it is. Right. So now we come to solder it back on. So I'm going to start off with the negative wire. So I'm looking where the 1 and the 0 or the pen mark is on there to figure out which one I need. Just rewarm the soldering iron. It is handy if you've got helping hands like this and clips, but I'm not going to use that just because you should be able to do it without. But if you are doing this, holding it with your fingers, hold it quite far down the wire because you don't want to burn yourself, and be prepared for it to get hot. So ideally you want to get a little bit of fresh solder on your soldering iron, which will help the old solder melt. Sorry, mine's still not up to temperature. Come on, let's turn that up a bit. Okay, just going to wait for a second. Probably cut this out. You know, who knows? I might be lazy and just leave it in. Yeah, just waiting for the soldering iron to heat up. That's always key. There we go. Right, that's hot enough. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit of soldering, a little bit of fresh solder on there. I'm just going to touch that to the outer pad by the 0. That's soldered on there. And then I'm also going to put the headband cable, and if you remember, they put the red one as negative on this. But I think it changes from some to the other. I think it depends who builds your pair on the production line. I'm sure I've seen it with the other way around, so it's always worth taking note of the headband cable. Right, so that's soldered on there. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. I'm going to take the other headband cable and I'm going to solder it onto one of the 2 middle pads. He says, getting it horribly wrong. Come on. Get in there. Sorry, give me a moment. Let me just get these cables out of the way. There we go. There we go. Right, so now we've got negative, negative for both the left and the right, and we've got the positive for the right on. Now I'm going to take the red cable and put it on the other middle pad so that it's joined to the headband cable. Which is super confusing. Why don't they have red to red? Why have they got red to white? But hey, that's how they do it in the thing. It saves us messing around. Okay. Alright, so that's on there. And then finally we need to do the positive for the left, which is this driver. We're going to stick that to the one that has the 1 on it, or the pen mark next to it. Again, I'm just going to get a little bit of fresh solder, touch that together. Try not to scream with pain from the heat. And we are done! Okay, so that is that, all soldered back on. I'm going to give the negative headband cable just another touch of solder, because I'm not totally happy with that. There we go. Right, so that's it. Basically, that's how you change the cable on a DT990. Pop the driver back in. Pop this back on. Now then, after you've put it back together, it is worth running a phase test. So if you go on YouTube and search for speaker phase test or something like that, and you want to check that it sounds right when it's in phase and it sounds wrong when it's out of phase. Otherwise that means that you've got the wires for the right hand one the wrong way around. And to be honest, if you've got to fix that, if you have got it out of phase, I would advise opening up the right hand driver and swapping those wires, because in here, as you saw, you've got a whole bunch of wires and it's a total nightmare, whereas in the other one you've only got 2 wires. So you just unsolder them, swap them over, and it's speaking from experience, it is much quicker to sort out the phase by swapping the drivers, the wires in the right hand one. Okie pokey. So I hope that was slightly better than the last one I did. I probably got it out of. It probably wasn't centered again, but hey, I got a slightly wider angle camera this time, so. As I move around the desk, hopefully you can still see it. If not, I'll shoot it again. I've got like 10 of these I've got to do today, so it's, you know, I'll get a chance to do another one. Alright, cool. Loving your work. Have fun. Got any questions, just ask. You know how it is. And if you could subscribe, obviously thank you for sticking to the end. I don't know why on earth you'd be listening to this bit. There's not even any headphones here. But yeah, thanks. Subscribe, do all the nice things, send me a message. All right, bye.